I guess like all things, this really comes down to the question of, what do you mean by bad for the environment? Hello world, I'm Olu. This channel is about social justice and ethics in tech. This channel is inspired by Earth Hour, which is today, 26th of March at 8:30. It's gone past now, but yeah, I thought I'd talk about the environment for once. So, is the internet bad for the environment? I'd argue that a few things have like unerringly good impact on the environment. Trees, for example, if you plant them and leave them alone, they are obviously great carbon sinks, they make oxygen, all this good stuff. But if you cut them down or use them for things that are not good for the environment, quotation marks, then again, they aren't that great. Same with algae in the sea, like it produces most oxygen, but if it's like unbalanced algae or it grows in the wrong ways, then it can kill loads of marine life, so nothing's just like good for the environment in its own. I guess I'm being charitable though. There's three main arguments that mean that the internet might be uniquely bad for the environment. The first one is that it's worse than other equivalent things. The second is that the harm is mitigatable, so that means that you can avoid it. And the final one is that this way of the harming the environment probably shouldn't exist at all. On the point that there are equivalent things that are less harmful, I'm not sure that's true. Like, of course, there's mass media, like printing presses and telephones and telegrams, but you could argue that printing presses had bad effects on printing press, and telephones had bad effects on the planet as well. Also depends on what you're doing on the internet. Like something like sending an SMS message, a raw SMS, as I always say, is like not going to be as harmful as sending like huge videos over the internet as I'm doing now. But yeah, there's like, or even bigger things like programs. But yeah, like there's different levels to it. Industrialization hasn't been a good process for the planet, but that doesn't mean that it's intrinsic to mass media or intrinsic to the internet itself, and therefore all of it is bad. Like, even industrialization itself, though it's had many bad effects, has had lots of good ones too. Obviously, this industrialization has been tied out of capitalism and centralization, so there's lots of things that we could uncouple by making tech smaller, and we could split it up, make it smaller, streamline it, make things better for people by making tech less centralised. Small tech would have more competition because not a monopoly, so because then they won't control the entire market, they'd have to compete on other factors, so there will be people competing on the fact that they're more environmentally friendly, at least, in that kind of market. The second point, whether the harm is mitigatable, is much more interesting to me. Like, should we always use as little resources as humanly possible as humans? That was a weird sentence, but yeah, you get what I mean. There's an article from BBC I'm going to link down in the description box and maybe up in the atmosphere if I can get it to work. But they compare the carbon output of different internet things, basically. So like an email or using a Kindle book or using a paper book. They conclude that using the paper book is worse because it you use more CO2 producing it, but I don't think that's quite a holistic view, because you have to consider the electricity that you use to power your Kindle each time. You have to consider if you're using an Amazon Kindle, especially, you have to consider the company you're buying it from and the practices that we use to make the Kindle, the minerals and stuff that goes into it, and all the production. I'm not sure it's as easy to work out as they're working out, but CO2 may be the only consideration that they care about, I guess. I'm not sure the question of is a paper book more environmentally friendly than a Kindle is a good question in general, because it depends on so many factors. Like, did you get it second hand? Did you find it on the street? Did you I don't know, there's so many different questions that come up when you think about these things. Another example given in the article is that we could save a huge amount of CO2 if we stopped sending thank you emails, and I think that's really funny because it's just illustrative of the kind of weird individualistic way we've started tackling climate change, I think, and thinking about things like as things individual people do in their individual houses rather than things that systems do, and systems have created systems of people, of course, but still systems. I'm kind of surprised they don't go further and say we should just not send emails. By the way, I don't think that stopping random activities is the best way to combat climate change, because if it's only your self-control that's stopping you from doing whatever climate misdeed, then it's not going to be sustainable, or it's not going to be the best way to do it, because eventually either your car will run down or somebody else will be doing it. So we shouldn't focus on these individual actions. I guess if you wanted to push for no thank yous at your company or at your co-op or at your organisation, that would be one thing, and maybe that would make a change, and we could save all the CO2 that's needed for that change. But yeah, I definitely think that we need to think about these things on a systems level, and to not make it so people feel like they have to cut themselves off the grid to continue fighting for the planet. Which brings me to my final point. Should the internet exist at all if it's harming the planet? As I've related to throughout, I think it's weird to think in this way, and that human society shouldn't exist because we're harming the planet. Like, I think there are many things we could do to make our society better, or to reorganise ourselves in ways that won't harm the planet as much, or at all. Well, at all is an illusion, yeah, that's the whole point of this video, really. Like, there's always going to be, like, externalities and repercussions for things we do. But to make them sustainable and to make it so that we're not making the planet unlivable for others is another issue. I think there's always like a whiff of like antinatalism, which is like when you think people shouldn't give birth, or ecofascism is the other term for for like this kind of line of thinking where we think that, oh, you know, humans should just not exist because we're destroying the planet, and I know it sucks for the other animals here, and we should do it all we can to like help other species too. But I think that it's not as clear cut as just stop doing everything that makes humans human. We have to think about ways to make our society sustainable and better, and like maybe we will end up cutting out a lot of things, but doesn't mean we should cut out ourselves. To put it another way, if I can't fight for humans living enriching, sustainable lives on this planet, then what's the point of fighting for things at all? What do you think? Do you think the internet is destroying the planet? Comment, like, share, all that stuff, subscribe, and let me know what you think below. Thanks so much for watching, goodbye world.